I think for a lot of people, they look to solve, it's almost like you have to solve the money thing before you solve the life thing. But that's actually not how you have to, it's not like mutually exclusive, right? Like you don't have to wait till you solve the money thing to create an epic life. Like I think being intentional and figuring out what you want out of life first is going to give you direction and help you make decisions with how you spend your time today, which impacts it even if the money's not there, the assets producing income aren't yet there.
Justin Donald, welcome to the show. Welcome to Become Your Own Superhero.
Hey, so glad to be here, Laban. This is fun. I'm glad that we can connect again.
Mate, it's always lovely to see your face. And one of my nicknames growing up in Australia was Deutsch. And it was kind of derived from Ditchburn into the German, and they spelt it a weird way. What nicknames have you got?
Well, I think my most common nickname is JD. I've got friends that call me by my last name, so Donald. And then I've got a handful of friends from one era of life that call me the Don. So those would be all the nicknames I've ever had, but probably the one that stuck the most was JD.
Well, it was a loaded question because I wondered whether you'd ever been called the lifestyle investor.
Well, as my brand rightly portrays, I try to live that lifestyle, and I'm sure there are some people that refer to me that way. I don't think of it that way. I don't even, the thought doesn't cross my mind on an everyday basis. I don't even think about it.
Well, if you've just dialed in, never heard of Justin Donald before, you want to stick around, because if you want to learn how to create intergenerational wealth, have a lifestyle where you choose when you work, you choose when you spend time with your wife, you choose when you spend time with your children, this is the guy to do it. All right. This guy is the real deal. I've read his book, The Lifestyle Investor. It is an incredible read. And I'll admit there's parts of it there that are a little bit over my head, but I think maybe some of that has to do with the fact that we grew up in different countries, and some of the lingo that you guys use here with describing business is a little bit different to New Zealand and Australia. But we'll get into that in a minute. I want to ask you a question about where did the name Lifestyle Investor evolve from?
You know, it was interesting because as I was trying to figure out what the next chapter of my life was, I had recently exited, a small exit, nothing substantial, but had recently exited a business and, was trying to figure out what was next. My wife and I and my daughter, I took off a year and we just went and traveled the world. And we went to 13 different countries and just had an absolute blast. And so during that time, I was trying to get clarity on what is next. Like, how do I want to spend my time? I don't have to work. Now I get to work. And what does it look like? What's the shift? Because I'm not going to sit around and do nothing. That sounds totally boring. There's only so much you can vacation. And even taking a year off work was really hard, I mean, it was truly the first time in my life that I had, taken that amount of time. But I gained clarity on this trip, just having total time freedom, where each day I woke up and I read while my family was sleeping, and I journaled, and I found things that I was interested in and just taught myself those things or looked people up. And I was reminded that I just love to learn. And the more I learn, I want to teach people. And the more that I teach people, I've always enjoyed coaching to a certain degree. And so for many years of my life, I had clients in various different avenues, whether it be scaling companies or, building, comp structures or retention, to investing. And so I just knew that I was built and designed to do that. And so, but I didn't want to just be focused on investing. I actually thought more importantly, the lifestyle component of it and living with intentionality, to me, was all of it. I didn't want it to be the investor's lifestyle. I didn't want it to be investor first. I wanted it to be lifestyle investor. I want the lifestyle to shine and the assets that produce income to afford the life that someone desires, right? And everyone is going to have different ideas of what that looks like. I wanted to help people buy their time back and not be a slave to the business they've built or the job that they have or the boss that they have or routine. I wanted people to stop living on autopilot and just put out fires or just respond to things, and instead like carve out that time to be intentional and proactive and figure out what does an ideal life for me look like. And so really the name came from hanging out with a couple of my friends, and we were just kind of spitfiring names back and forth, and none of the names resonated. And I remember just saying, no, I want this to be about lifestyle. I want people to figure out like how to live free and live this abundantly amazing life. And then like at this dinner, I was in La Jolla with my friend Mike Koenigs and his wife, Vivian. And it was at that dinner where we just came up with it. And it was like, yes, that's it. 100%. That's it. That's the future. That's what I want to, brand around.
Do you remember any of the other names that didn't make it?
The rogue investor was one of them, kind of creating a little, I don't know, some sort of make it a little eerie or make it a little interesting or it's like you're kind of unsure about who this is or what this is. There are a handful of different things, but nothing resonated until I was able to articulate that the investment part doesn't actually even matter to me. It's the means to an end. The end is living a killer life. And what does that life look like to you? Because it's different than your friend. It's different than your parents. It's different than your neighbor. It's different than your siblings. Like that life to you, when you can gain clarity, is everything. And it's so much more fun to live life where you own your time. You're a time billionaire, right? It's not about how do you own more money. It's how do you own more time. And it actually doesn't take a lot of money to own your time. It doesn't take anywhere close to what people think it takes to own your time, or to at least own more of your time than you own today. And then you can choose who you want to spend it with and what are you doing and how are you spending that time? For the time that you are working, are you doing things that actually, build you up and make you feel alive and have passion? And it's almost like that higher calling, like that you're in service to the world and you just love it. Like you would do it for free, because when you own assets that produce the income that you live, you can do anything for free. And those free things might not end up remaining free. You might get paid a lot of money to do those things that you love to do, but then it's on your time, your schedule, with the people that you want, and on the time frame completely that you want.
I'll admit, Justin, at times there's been jealousy of where you're at. Not for very long, and not. It's just a fleeting thought, because in your book, which folks, it's a USA Today and Wall Street Journal best-selling book. It's helped so many brilliant people, and it really is going to open your eyes. The time frames that Justin's talking about are in the months and weeks in some cases to turn your life around, isn't it? So, through my own journey and through conquering the addictions and all the other stuff, I truly feel that if I didn't take the time to prioritize those things first, I'd be dead. So the making monies come at the final point. For people that are listening to this that are at that similar point where they're just figuring out this, I know I need to make the money to create this lifestyle that I know I want to provide for my family. Like it might seem like it's been quite a long time since you've been at that place. Do you remember what it was like back there, and what advice would you give to people that are at that point?
Yeah, I completely do. And my life looks rosy because you see what it is today, but no one really sees the sweat and the energy that went into kind of getting to where I am today, and what I've been able to figure out, because it came with, heartache and hardship, and it came with things not working out. It came with investments that went bad. It came with partnerships that went bad. It came with people trying to, steal from me. It came with people trying to sue me. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. So it's the end product always looks so nice and so glamorous, but the work to get there, it's not always as glamorous, right? But yeah, I for sure remember before, anything of success with the book or with my mastermind or my podcast or anything like that, and I'm flattered. I'm always like pinching myself, saying like I can't believe Lifestyle Investor is what it is today, and it really is an honor to be able to work with and surround myself with many of these individuals. But there was a process to get there, and I think for a lot of people, they look to solve. It's almost like you have to solve the money thing before you solve the life thing. But that's actually not how you have to. It's not like mutually exclusive, right? Like you don't have to wait till you solve the money thing to create an epic life. Like I think being intentional and figuring out what you want out of life first is going to give you direction and help you make decisions with how you spend your time today, which impacts it even if the money's not there, the assets producing income aren't yet there. Even a shift in career or a shift with the people that you're surrounding yourself with. Like all these things play a role. So for me, I could have gone straight to making more money, but without clarity of purpose, that would actually create another issue and problem potentially. I would say for most people, probably for myself. So I had to get clear on like, how do I actually want to spend my time? What do I enjoy doing? Who are the people I enjoy being around? Who would I want to work with? Who do I want to be in community with? Who's playing the game of life at a higher level? Who's playing the game of wealth building at a higher level? How do I spend more time with them? How can I just be in their ecosystem so I can glean knowledge from them, on a pretty regular basis? And so sometimes it was like hiring coaches when I didn't even necessarily have the money or feel like I had the money to do that. Like the money probably should go somewhere else. Other times it was joining groups, masterminds, organizations where I'm surrounding myself with a peer group of like-minded people or people that had the mindset that I wanted to be like. I couldn't even call myself like-minded yet, right? But I knew that's where I wanted to be. I knew that my current ecosystem of friends probably was not helping me become the man I needed to be to take the next step in the life that I wanted to create. And again, it's not that any of my friends are bad. Like all my friends, like I've had great friends, but there's like different like frequency or resonating on topics. And I knew where I wanted to go and I didn't want to be complacent. And so, yeah, I think it all comes with work. And I think that, it's not an overnight thing, but it's like a one step at a time thing. Like, how can I get some passive income to cover my first utility bill? And then maybe it's my car payment, and maybe then it becomes the mortgage or the rent. Maybe it's all the survival income dollars, right? And so there's different stages and tiers. But I think before any of that, that's why in my book, before I even talk about investing, I try to help people get clear on what is an ideal life for you, right? What do you want life to look like? And I think having that clarity is going to make all the difference, because then you're going to pivot direction you go even before the income's coming. And often that can lead to the income.
You may not know me, but let me tell you one thing. I don't care what you
Dude, it's so interesting because my wife, she teaches mainly women, but some men, how to manifest their ideal partner. And a lot of it in the beginning comes with developing the clarity of what you want, right? And it falls into business and everything. And I want to run something by you that I wrote in April this year, April 2023. After experiencing a few letdowns from people that said yes, they want to do things, and I'm sure you've experienced this in your journey as well. But I wrote down a list of my ideal client, and I would love to hear your thoughts on what I've written and how I could improve it, because when I wrote it, literally the next meeting and the subsequent meetings that I've had, I've started to manifest and attract exactly these caliber people. So it works. I'm telling you, there's something about quantum entanglement that we're starting to learn more and more about, that you'll manifest the stuff. So
100%.
here's what I wrote. Fast acting and decisive action taker. High integrity. Says what they mean and mean what they say. Understands and submits to the power of the law of reciprocity. Believes everything is possible. Knows what their purpose here on earth is. Invest in themselves financially, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Open-minded to the fact that they don't know everything. Super receptive to ask for and to receive help. Is okay saying no or not right now. Abundance mindset. Deep connection to source. What people think of them is none of their spiritual business, and want to play at the highest level possible.
I love your list. That's incredible.
Thanks.
By the way, what I would say, what I love about the list is those people you're going to get energy from working with, being around. So like to me, just the intentionality of creating this moment of clarity for what you're looking for is going to make it so that you are just playing. You're constantly playing. That's the fun of it. And I even think the next level is start making a list of the people that embody those characteristics. And can you start getting them in your ecosystem? Some people you might have to pay to get in your ecosystem, right? Hire them as a coach. Some people you might be able to recognize, hey, they hang out in this mastermind or this group or, you know, this investment club, and you can join it, this country club or whatever, and you can get close to those people. You know, some people you can just reach out to and say, hey, can I take you to lunch? I'd love to buy you lunch and pick your brain. You know, so I think it'd just be powerful to like start creating that list of whoever it might be. And some of those, it's like, I don't know, how do I know if this person, you know, really means what they say and says what they mean? Well, you don't know till you pursue a relationship and you figure it out. And you might rule them out, but you might rule them in, right?
Well, this is the question you've kind of answered, but I want to ask it anyway. In your experience, because the caliber people that you're dealing with, you're talking about tens and hundreds of millions of dollar deals that are being put together in the most brilliant way possible, by the way. You need to read the book to understand what I'm talking about. You must be at a level now, Justin, where you're able to really dial into your intuition, I would have thought. What are some techniques that you use that help you connect with the right people?
Well, for sure, I have learned I need to trust my intuition, because when I am open to paying attention and I'm not just reacting and on autopilot, my intuition and all of our intuition is spot on. Most people just can't hear it or feel it or experience it because they're too busy. So I've just had the experience that I am able to, you know, I've been learning how to get more clarity around that. So for me, it is something where I've just learned to trust myself. And I've learned that when I experience a red flag, that probably means something. And I probably need to slow down or pivot, or maybe I need to say no in that situation. I've also learned that if I'm unsure, I probably want to give people the benefit of the doubt or give them a chance. And then I've also learned that the moment I realize that that's not the case, I need to be ready to pull the plug quickly.
That's really, really great advice. And I encourage people to pay attention to this, because the healthier that I've gotten, and you know some of my story, Justin, like physically healthy and then mentally and emotionally and spiritually healthy, like the better my intuition, the better my gut is. And it's gotten to a point now, and I don't want to come across arrogant, where, oh man, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's very, very high, where I can immediately tell whether I want to be in the presence of that person. Like that resonance you talk about, that energetic, the vibrational thing. And it seems like the further I progress in my journey, the fewer people there are that I get on with. And, you know, we had the opportunity to connect through a mastermind group called Selfless Givers, which is full of, you know, people that are unbelievable. You know, I'm unbelievable too, but it was a little bit daunting to begin with. But then it soon normalized, and I was like, I'm home. So, how do people that have no clue where to start with this? Where do they start?
It really comes from identifying like who is it that you want to be around? Like what does life look like for you? Who's living that life? Who can you start to tap into and get time with? Who embodies the characteristics and the values that you hold at the highest level? And I just want to spend time with those people. Those are mentors, whether they're peers or not. Those are people I can learn from. And it's been amazing to me the different peer groups that I've gotten into and the way they think. It doesn't sound like people that have never done this or have never experienced this don't recognize the vast difference that happens and how quickly it can happen from being around people that just think different, because you start to think differently with them. Limiting mindset shift to more expansive mindsets and more opportunistic thinking in the way not in a negative connotation, but really looking at things and the opportunity in those things, right? So different than an opportunist, right? Really like being around people that are such big thinkers. It's like, we can make an opportunity out of anything, and that opportunity can be a win-win, and here's how it is. So for me, I would say that the vast majority of the success that I've had is because I've surrounded myself with other people that are playing that game at a higher level than me, that are showing up in the world in a more impressive and way and more like value giving way than me, and just helping me to level up how I need to show up in the world. So like peer group, mentors, coaches, like that, just that recognition has been one of the greatest gifts, if not the single greatest gift in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome, Justin. That lady, Carolyn Stenhouse, who I manifested in 2018, I met her in a lift, in an elevator, and she had a sparkle in her eye. She was in her 60s, and we just started conversing in the lift, and we ended up having a conversation for like 30 minutes, an hour downstairs. And she became a mentor and a coach. She didn't charge me for it, but I was able to help her with some things that she needed help with later on as well. And that sort of, she was the one that encouraged me to become a speaker. So I'll always be very grateful for that. You're right. I think I'd become quite clear. I knew I wanted to be a speaker. I knew I wanted to get my message out to the world. And then all of a sudden the universe just provided that. And it's that great quote. It's like when the why becomes clear, the how becomes easy. You don't need to worry about the minutiae, do you? It's just to get stuck in. I want to talk about this book of yours for a second, because you've had some wonderful comparisons, and I'm going to butcher this, so I might get you to help me out. But you've been compared to as the new Warren Buffett. Is that correct?
That is correct. I would just like to throw out a disclaimer that I myself see no comparison, and I am just in awe of the guy. I went to his shareholder meeting this year, Berkshire Hathaway, and watched this man at 93 years old and his partner, Charlie Munger, at 99 years old, host an 8-hour meeting where they were just brilliant. And so to even be uttered in the same sentence as him is really life-giving, but by no means am I anywhere close to a Warren Buffett, and I should hope that if I could even be 1/100th of him from a business and investing standpoint, I'll be a happy man.
Well, he's got about, how old are you now?
I just turned 43.
For you, the same age as me. You got another lifetime to go and a little bit before you need to compete yourself. And I would argue that you'll be, if you stick around at 93, and if you end up doing some of this dry fasting, you probably will, that you'll be more successful than him. There is no comparison, but it's a nice thing for people to say, certainly. But the book is got the information in it, right? Go and read the book. It's brilliant. But I want to ask you about the process of writing the book. How healing was writing the book for you?
Well, it was incredibly healing. And there are a number of levels and layers I should probably share about the book, because I don't consider myself an author. Even to this day, people call me an author, but I don't actually feel like I'm an author. And I'll explain why that is. I mean, I just feel like I put some things together. And by the way, I wrote this book with a goal. I have a glossary in it. My goal is that people will dog ear this thing and use it for a lifetime. I have many people that have said that they're on their second, third, fourth, fifth time through it. And so it's really fun to me to see these novices getting into it as like their first investment book, but then these experienced investors that are also getting value from it. So it's super humbling to experience this, because when it all came about, I mean, I made a dreams list back in 2006, and I wrote 100 dreams down. And one of my dreams was to write a book. I didn't know what it would be on. I had no clue. And then I've had friends for over a decade asking me to write a book on my investment experience, my investment journey, because they wanted it. They wanted to read it. So I have friends that have been pestering me for a long time. And I just kind of kept kicking that can down the road, because it wasn't a heck yes for me. It was like, I don't know. I wasn't quite there. And then one of my really good friends, we were taking a walk around Town Lake here in Austin. It's just this beautiful trail. And he said, "Hey, Justin, I've been asking you for years. Many of our mutual friends have been asking you for years to write a book. You still haven't. I just have one question for you. How are you going to feel if you die and your daughter never learns all these skills, tools, and strategies that you figured out over life?" And I was like, whoa. That was like eye-opening. I was not expecting that. It was like a punch to the gut. And so really my writing was this first iteration was totally like her in mind, what I wanted to teach her. So the Lifestyle Investor, like the whole brand, like a lot of people don't know this, but when I picked out the logo, she actually picked it out with me. We were reading the Chronicles of Narnia at that time, and so Aslan was the figure, and so we actually picked out a logo that looked like Aslan, and which is really fun to think about. And so she was really involved in a lot of this, and I dedicated the book to her because my 10 commandments of cash flow investing, for passive income and financial freedom, which is the subtitle, that's like my 10 criteria that I wanted to share with her and for her to understand, even if it's, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, with more iterations of the book and, a few more versions of it. And we're actually working on a updated and expanded edition right now. It is like, I'm just blown away that this thing was a #1 Wall Street Journal, #1 seller and #1. I mean, you could go through all the categories, but it's now a top 1% of all books ever sold. And it's flattering to me because from day one, I said, I'll never take a profit of this book. 100% of the proceeds of this book are going to go to fight human trafficking. So this book has now single-handedly been responsible for donating hundreds of thousands of dollars, and soon we'll be approaching $1 million in money donated to Tim Tebow Foundation, to Love Justice International, to just a lot of groups that are doing great work around the world and shining the light on them so other people know what's going on. So the book is really, the process of writing it was therapeutic. I didn't actually physically write it. I dictated it into a phone. I walked around and recorded myself talking, transcribed it, hired an editor to put it in order so it actually made sense. And then I tweaked it once it was actually in book form. And I did all this in a matter of about 6 weeks. It may have been less. And that's kind of like you pumped out your book in 6 weeks. And I was like, same timeline. I just had to get it out of my head. And it was one of the most therapeutic things I've ever done. And it solved for this legacy piece that I wanted for my daughter. It solved for helping people get out of financial freedom. And then the proceeds are helping people buy their real human freedom. And so it's really just a blessing come true with that book.
Dude, that's. I just had a thought, an idea that might be of interest if you haven't done it already. I wonder if there's any possibility to donate a number of your books to some of these survivors of the human trafficking, maybe in the US or where they speak English as the first language. And then what a wonderful testimonial it might be in, 4 or 5 years from now, where someone who was set free from human trafficking, because at the time of recording, this new Jim Caviezel movie's just come out, which is, what's the name of the movie called? Do you remember?
Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom, under much controversy, right? But it's just blown off the socks off the box office.
That's right.
Yeah, wouldn't it, I don't know what the practicalities of that would be. Maybe you've already done it, but like, is there some kind of way that because wouldn't that be great? Because the principles.
Amazing. I love it, and we have not done that, and I would love that. And there's probably some inroads to do that. I'm actually going to be spending some time with Tim Tebow here shortly, so this is for sure a conversation that we can have.
You got Tim Tebow coming on the podcast after this?
Not today, and really we've got a meeting set up first before we do any podcasting. But he has agreed to come on the show, so yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant! I'm sitting amongst Tim Tebow and plus some other incredible people you had on the show as well. But and as are you on the Become Your Own Superhero podcast, so I don't get too distracted. But and I just wonder, there's been some real powerful advancements in AI, and I'm working with a guy at the moment. It's put the framework of this other book, because I wrote my first book. I had to get it out and I typed it, and I would still argue that you still wrote the book. Doesn't matter how you got it out, just because you didn't choose to type it and take as long as I did with it. If you can dictate it and do it that way. And I think people need to understand that if they've got a book inside them, there's many different ways that you can do it to get out in the world. But with I wonder if there might be another version in your head that's a more simplified version for like how old's your daughter now? She's like 10 or 11?
Yeah, 10 and a half. Yep.
10. So that was a good guess. Like, is there a children's version bouncing around in your head that you've thought about or started writing maybe?
Yeah, I've got probably 20 to 25 different book ideas. So there are probably some future books, but one of them is a children's book. One of them is even, a teen, preteen book. One of them is even a book for parents to teach their kids. So there's a lot of ideas, a lot of iterations. There's, there are probably some future books that will come out after I finish this expanded edition.
Because what I was just thinking, I'm just thinking on the fly, I haven't prepared any of this stuff, is you could run your entire book through this AI and get it to rewrite it in the language of an 8-year-old, right?
That's true.
Which is the average reading age for most American adults, by the way, 8 years of age.
That's a great
idea.
idea.
You know that? Yeah.
No, I did not. And I love that idea. And it's funny, like AI is the new big buzz. I mean, I've been investing in AI for probably a decade or close to a decade at this point. But it is like the coolest thing in the world. And, I invested, I was able to get access to OpenAI, ChatGPT for the lifestyle investor community, which is really cool. And some other really cool projects like that. We're working on Anthropic right now as an investment opportunity. So I love what AI is doing for the world on the productive side. I mean, there's certainly some dangers, but I think there's so much value that is, and will continue to be created through utilizing AI in value-driven ways.
Well, with the help of this friend of ours, his name's Andrew Anderson. He's just an incredible guy. We wrote the framework for the book in 17 minutes.
Wow.
And this is separate. So this is more practicality, because this is teaching people how to reach out and connect with, how to organically get invited on big podcasts, right? So it's a totally different subject matter to what I wrote about in my first book. But the reason I mentioned the 8-year-old level is one of my former guests, Andrew Matthews, who's an Australian author. He sold probably 9 million copies of his books. And you might have heard of them. They're called like Being Happy. And they're done with, he does all his own cartoons and stuff. Many people that have read his books, it's the first book they've ever read because they've learned how to speak English as a refugee or whatever. And as a grown man, they learn how to read for the first time, and that's the first book. And he wrote them so that an 11-year-old Singaporean girl who had English as a second language could understand them. That's the whole platform in which he writes his books, and it's just blown up. He's sold them in about 70 different countries in about 90 different languages or something ridiculous.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah. So
I love that. I love that idea. Thank you.
Justin, I know you got Tim Tebow waiting on the other line just about. No, I'm just kidding. But I know people are going to be interested to learn more about you. How do people get a hold of you, man? How do people find you?
Yeah, the best place to go is lifestyleinvestor.com. All of our products are on there. So we've got everything from free to, expensive, everything in the middle. But I've got a blog, a podcast, my book, master classes, online courses. So I've got a mobile home park investing master class, since that's how I got started. And I've got a passive income master class. And then I've got the Lifestyle Investor Mastermind, which is kind of our flagship program with 150 of the most impressive, brightest, amazing humans in the world that we get together pretty frequently and get a chance to, mastermind and brainstorm and ideate. And so something else that may be interesting for your audience is I've got a team, and this is kind of like a new program we've started, and I'm happy to roll this out with your audience, but we're doing these free strategy sessions where we're helping people figure out, hey, what's the next step for me? Like, I want some passive income. Like, where do I go next? And so if anyone on your team just wants to figure out what's next and what that looks like, they can reach out to our team. They can go to lifestyleinvestor.com/strategy, and they can book one of our free strategy calls, and someone can kind of walk them through different options and different things to look at.
Wow, very generous. Thank you very much. So it's lifestyleinvestor.com/strategy.
You got it.
So we'll make sure the link's in the show notes as well, and on YouTube and on Rumble as well. Justin, this has been such a delightful day together, we'll call it. Do you have any concluding thoughts for our amazing audience?
Yeah, I think one of the things I say on my podcast that is important is it's simply this: like, what is the one step you can take today to take action on what you've learned and to move closer to the life that you desire, whether it's financial freedom, whether it's pivoting to a new business, a new job, starting your own company. Like, what is the one thing that you can do today to move in the direction of your desired outcome, your desired life, and then take it? That's it. My strong encouragement and my strong challenge is take a step. However it looks, however messy it looks, however small it is, but take a step today, and you'll be amazed what happens when you keep doing that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Justin Donald.